Hello dear friends, assalamu alaikum and welcome back. We are discussing about the urinary bladder. So this was our previous lecture about the introduction of urinary bladder, right? In this lecture we are going to discuss about the histology or the structure of urinary bladder. So let me go in detail of that. Let me write here the structure of urinary bladder. Structure of urinary bladder. Clear? Or we can also call this as the histology of urinary bladder, right? Histology of urinary bladder, or we can call it layers of urinary bladder, layers of urinary bladder. Right friends, now I will write first of all the layers, then we will discuss them all in the diagram and in their composition. So our urinary bladder is composed of how many layers? The 4 layers. The very easily, sorry, 4 layers of the urinary bladder are: the innermost layer is called the mucosa, right? The inner layer is called mucosa, right? Then there is the second layer that is called the submucosa, or we call, okay, let me write it here, submucosa. We don't want to make it complicated. Submucosa. And the third layer is called the muscularis. Right? And the fourth layer is called the serosa. Right? So how many layers? There are 4 layers. There are 4 tunics which make your urinary bladder. The innermost, let me write it here, this is the innermost, right? Okay, and this is the outermost layer. Okay, done. Next thing about the composition, I will write. Okay, let me write it here first of all. The innermost layer, the mucosa, is composed of the epithelial cells, right? So let me write here what is here. There is the epithelial cells. And which kind of epithelial cells are there? There is the transitional epithelium, and I will tell you about transitional epithelium. And if you want to know very much about transitional epithelium, I have discussed it in the epithelial tissue section. There is the playlist of epithelial tissue, you can watch there. Transitional epithelium is there. Okay, and how many layers? About 14 layers of transitional epithelium is there. Okay, and this layer is also known, this epithelium is also known as the urethelium. Okay, important points about the mucosa of your urinary bladder is that it is the innermost layer. It is composed of epithelial cells. The epithelial cells are transitional epithelium, right? And there are 14 layers of it. And the next thing about it is that the base cells are the cuboidal cells, and the outer cells are the columnar cells, right? So like this, right? Like this. But no problem, we are here to know about the structure of urinary bladder. So like this, very simply. Then I will draw a diagram also, very big large diagram here, and I will clear every doubt. Then there is submucosa, and the submucosa we also call it the lamina propria. And in this lamina propria, what is there? Very importantly, there are, let me use the colors for you guys. There are arteries, right? Okay, then there are veins are there. Then what is there? Then there are nerves there, right? I'm using these colors for you guys to, I want you guys to remember all these things. The arteries, veins, and nerves are there, and other things which are there are the fibers, the elastic fibers are there. elastic fibers are found in the submucosa, right, and some other connective tissue also. Connective tissue, right. This is the composition of the submucosal layer of the urinary bladder. Then there is the muscularis layer, right. Muscularis layer is composed of three groups of muscles, right. Muscularis externa, we also call it muscularis externa, or we call it muscularis. There is an three layers of muscles around your bladder, right. In the muscularis layer there is an inner longitudinal layer. I will show you in the diagram. Inner longitudinal layer, right. Then there is a middle circular layer, middle circular layer, you will see it in diagram. And then there is an outer longitudinal layer, right. So three layers of muscles are there, and these three layers are called the detrusor muscles, right. We call them the detrusor muscles. Okay friends, so this is the muscularis layer of the urinary bladder. Now in the serosa, what is there? It is the protective layer. It is also known as adventitia, right. It is the outer layer, right. It is protective in nature. It is protective, and it is wholly solely composed of what? It's composed of connective tissue. Okay. And also along this connective tissue it contains blood vessels like arteries, small branches. They also contain the veins, right, and also nerves are there in the serosa. Nerves are also there, right friends. So these are the four layers of your urinary bladder, right. The four layers are the mucosa, submucosa, muscularis and serosa. Now let us clear this doubt in this diagram here. For example, we have our urinary bladder here. Let me make the urinary bladder with this color, right. For example, this is our urinary bladder, right. We are looking at it from the superior surface. Then this is the inner side, right, and I will discuss about the features of the inner layer also, right, the internal of the. And then there is, there is the hole which is called the urethral orifice, right. This is urethral orifice or urethral opening. Okay, this is the apex, right. This is the basal side or base, right. So very simply, this is superior surface. These are the two inferior lateral surfaces. We have discussed it in the previous lecture. You can watch that lecture also. Now look carefully. Let me enlarge this small part, right, this area. We will make it a little bit enlarged, right, and we will see all these four layers here. Now look, first of all there is the serosal layer or the outer layer, serosa, right. So if you want to know about serosa, I have written also there. So for example, this is the serosa. This is that section that we have taken and we have enlarged it. So this is serosa. In the serosa there are arteries, blood vessels are there. Then there are also veins are there, right, very simply. And then there are some nerves are there, right, and then some other connective tissues are also present there in the serosa. So this is the outer layer which is called your serosa, very simply. Then there is the muscularis layer, right. So in the muscularis layer, there is a longitudinal layer of muscles, and then there is a circular layer. So let me make it three layers of muscles. This is one layer, this is middle layer, right, and this is the inner layer. So 3 layers of muscles are there, but let me make this muscularis a little bit rounded, right? We will take this layer, the muscularis layer here, and we will make it a little bit rounded like this, right? Now look carefully. There is a layer which is called the circular layers of muscles. So this is the circular layer of muscles, right? Circular layer. Then there is a longitudinal layer. Now look carefully. This is longitudinal, right? Longitudinal means up and down, and this is the circular layer. It's so simple. So longitudinal layer will be like this. Right? This is outer longitudinal layer of muscles, and then there is the inner longitudinal layer of muscles like this. Clear, friends? I hope you understand now. Longitudinal layer of muscles will be okay, let us make it here. These muscles will be like this, right? We won't leave our diagram incomplete. We will complete it. This is the longitudinal layer of smooth muscles. Okay, then there is a circular layer of smooth muscles. So these are the circular layer of smooth muscles, right? Circular layer of smooth muscles, right? And then again there is an inner longitudinal layer. This is again inner. So these muscles will be like this, right? Like this. Now look, you can see the difference between circular layer and longitudinal layer of muscles now. So these are longitudinal muscles, inner longitudinal muscle. These 3 layers, I told you before that they are called the what they are called? They are called the detrusor muscles. So this is muscularis and this is serosa. Serosa, right? And here is your muscularis. I hope you are understanding me. This is outer longitudinal, right? This is middle circular, right? And this is inner longitudinal layer, right? And these 3 layers of muscles are called detrusor muscles. Clear, friends? Now then there is the 3rd layer, right? We are going from outside to inside. This is called the submucosa, or we call it the lamina propria, right? So in the lamina propria, what are there? There are blood vessels, right? Arteries. There are also veins there, right? And then there are nerves there, right? Nerves are there, and then there are some elastic fibers are also there. We use brown color for these elastic fibers are also there. So this is the 3rd layer. Now let's go towards innermost layers of the urinary bladder, that is called the mucosa. Very simply, let us make the diagram clear here. This is the innermost layer. So innermost layer of the urinary bladder is like this, right? Like this. It's a wavy structure, and above these wavy structures there is the epithelial cells are there. So about 14 to 15 layers of transitional epithelium is there, right? Like this. So these are those epithelial cells, and also inside it this lamina propria, right? Look carefully. Here are the projections of the lamina propria. These are actually the projections of the lamina propria, right? So this whole diagram, this is the lamina propria and this is the serosa, mucosa, right? So also these veins and capillaries and arteries go there inside that. These are the blood vessels, right? So this is the transitional epithelial layer. Now this transitional epithelium, why it is called transitional epithelium? Because it changes its shape, What does it do? It changes its shape. Why? Because whenever there is lots of urine inside your urinary bladder and that urine applies pressure on this transitional epithelium, so this transitional epithelium is called transition because it changes its shape. Changes shape, right? So when it changes its shape, they become a little bit. Okay, let me make it very clear for you. This is the basement membrane again, and this is basement membrane, and here is the transitional epithelium. I want to show you guys. This is a little bit stratified, right? This is transitional epithelium. Now look carefully. Whenever there is lots of urine in your urinary bladder and that urine applies pressure, applies force on this transitional epithelium, this transitional epithelium will adapt itself and it will reduce the cell size like this. So when the cell size is decreased, right, there is much space created for the urine, so that your urinary bladder will a little bit expand and there is the less pressure of the urine again. So in order to give area or volume for the urine, the transitional epithelium changes its shape, and when the urine is empty, it again come back to its original shape. So this is called transitional epithelium. Now my friends, this is about the structure of the urinary bladder that we discussed. You can make notes of it, you can take picture, right? Okay, so this was about the structure of urinary bladder. In the next lecture we will discuss about the blood supply, innervation, and other important things about the urinary bladder. See you guys there. Till then, Allah Hafiz.